Well, good afternoon. And so what we're doing now is I made a video earlier today. Then I went and did a few other things. Now I'm coming back to do this. So I'm showing people, I guess, in these videos now. We're only at video 50, maybe 49, 51, something like that. This is tracing paper, right? We're going to make 100 of these guys, 100 videos. By that time, we'll know what we're doing. But anyway, showing how to use tracing paper. How to use tracing paper is you buy it by the roll or you buy it by the pad. And having it available in both ways of doing things is probably really useful. Okay, so if you notice the roll allows for all of this. And I'm pretending that I have this on a pad. There's excess. As you make these drawings, you'll always have excess tracing paper. So cut away the excess tracing paper and pile it up. And then what will happen is you'll have really useful bits of tracing paper for doing things that I'll show while I'm doing this. You'll see why tracing paper is so wonderful. Okay, it's wonderful for people who like to do things really by hand, okay? And I'm one of those kind of people who really likes to draw by hand. Now, what we have is we have a bunch of, how would we put it, lines. We have all kinds of lines on the drawing. The main thing being is that they need to be trued up. Okay, we want the perspective to look right. So if you notice what I'm doing to this little construction down here below, I just trued it up. Okay, and by truing it up, I mean that basically now it looks a little bit more right, a little bit more straight up and down. If you wanted to get really critical, you could say that these lines really aren't quite right. But we're not doing that. We're doing cartoons, we're doing colored paper. One of the reasons we're doing cartoons and colored paper is because the standards are decent, right? But, we're not doing hardcore technical specifications for planetary space stations. At least not this decade. Okay, so anyway, I'm just trimming that up. And that helps a little bit. And so what we do is we just kind of go around with the second, we'll call it the second layer of tracing paper. And then make the lines feel natural, right? And that's more or less the curve of how this waterfall is behaving. Okay, and it's coming out here, right? And this wall, okay, that wall is running like this, right? True up the lines, just kind of go around and make sure the lines kind of look right. And do the little things necessary to keep the whole thing on track, right? Here again, so straight up and down is pretty good. I mean, right angles are good for kind of keeping things on track. So we have a line happening below here. I'm going to keep that together as well, right? Okay, so as you draw more and more, you'll get a better eye for doing it. See, what we're doing here is truing this up. So it kind of looks right. So you do your preliminary drawing rather quick. And then what you do is you want these lines to be kind of stylized and clean, if you can. You don't have to do that right away, but I'm kind of jumping to that because what I want to see happen here is I want to be unconfused, not confused about issues of figuring things out. So there. Okay. Now, let's see here. This circle isn't bad. I'm going to do most of the circles by hand. It's nice to have a set of templates to do your circles, but for now that's kind of good enough. Okay. Trim up the angle on this. We're going to have some text right here. The title for this piece is The Shoreline. Okay. We can use this for an opening panel, this whole thing here, or something down the road. And we'll have some narrative here. Something poetic, right? Poetic is good. Cryptic, poetic. We want to be cryptic and poetic. That line is not terribly good. So anyway, we've already solved some problems. We're making our way around here. We know that this shape here is roughly that, right? So we'll put that there. We want the arrow, have the arrow point to the center, right? That little thing down there, move the arrow over. And true that up, right? So true that up a little bit. And so there's two of these little towers. We call them towers. They're kind of squat little towers on either side of what we'll call this gate, okay? And I'm giving them flat roofs for now until I come up with, I don't want to distract myself, and they may stay flat just because you can see kind of over the horizon. I have a feeling they're going to have these little cities on top, and that will be part of this. So notice, keeping things kind of simple and truing them up. Okay. And now we have both sides of that. And this wall over here became a bit tricky. So we solved that, okay? And instead of being clever and having it go way off in the distance, smaller and smaller and smaller, we're just going to have it stay relatively close. And this. So this tower, I guess, for composition's sake, this sphere, or these are planetoids, remember. It's not easy to draw a planetoid, right? There's a planetoid. Yay! All right, now, this tower has relationships to these two shapes. We don't want to run this up, maybe we do. That brings into mind something. We won't see it in this picture. But if I have this below this line, it's not as exciting as having it above this line, right? So we're going to have what amounts to a tall composition that you won't be able to see on the screen, unfortunately. Just trust me that there's tall composition happening, right? Okay. Tall composition. So what I've just done is I've pushed this into being really interesting architectural construction, right? And I'll even bring it down just a little bit more. So that, something that wasn't that big of a deal, just because of solving problems, ended up being kind of integral to the composition of the whole piece. Now, having these little guys come off of here and go down like this, right? And kind of wrap around like so, right? That isn't looking so bad now. It still looks a little off. I don't know, there's something wrong about this. It needs some little thing, I don't know, Space Needle kind of World's Fair kind of thing happening up here or something. I don't know. It looks like a baking applicator or something, but that's okay. It's going to look like a cool tower one of these days. But these lines are important. We need truing up lines here. We want the angle to be right. Okay, so now we know that this is going to go up to some sort of thing here. Oh, and I just solved the problem. This is the tower of whatchamacallit. Up here, something crucial to what's happening down here. Okay, that makes sense. It's J.R.R. Tolkien's The Other Tower. Okay, that's the other tower. There were two towers, becomes the other. Now, so let's have this line in the background. Okay, now this is a little bit more mature than the drawing we started with. It's already a little bit more mature. Okay, now, so what we have is, now here for storytelling, what we have is we have a title, which you find eventually by looking at this. Eventually your eye catches the fact, oh, this is the title of what's going on. Where your eye goes now is this guy. So this ends up having to be a tower, and we'll work on that. We're going to make this tower really interesting. It's going to have a lot of little castle things going on. In fact, this tower is going to be a real trick. It's going to have a little kind of spiral castle thing going on, a little balcony thing kind of happening. Because what this is now important. Obviously, they control the gate from the tower, right? Tower's important to both the gate. It's like it's a beacon, right? Every planetoid needs a beacon. Okay, so now we found the curvature. And here, a rule for perspective. We are actually high up ourselves. We may be in the towers over here because we're looking. The perspective lines are all converging at about here. When the horizon line is high and going, what that means is that you're seeing things from kind of up above. So we're either in a spaceship of our own or a tower or something like that. Okay, so now there's a little height differential. We have to be careful about intuition. Intuition is how we went from being babies to walking around and running and all that because of things like depth perception and other things that come with our perception. So you notice this wall. This is where the water is coming past the wall over here. That is lower than what the wall would be over here. Likewise, if you follow this line here, it would be lower than that wall. Your intuition picks up on these things. That's important to get right. Okay. And there are ways to do that. We'll discuss later. So the way to start this wall and fixing it is from the top. Because what happens is it comes around here, right? And it connects here. So it's going around on this side of the tower, coming around here, and put it about here, right? And it runs around like so. It never gets any more narrow than about that, right? Okay. It comes around like so. And now, here. Now remember, this is the curvature. Repeat the curvature, right? You want this for this to be at the same level. It's not up here someplace. It's at the curvature level. It's right about here, right? So when this comes around like this, you want it to look like it's kind of the same level, right? It needs to join up right about there, following the curvature. Likewise, the bottom of the wall would be about here. And now the wall doesn't look so peculiar. It actually looks kind of right. And we're going to true up. So you notice I have these right angles, right? I'm kind of faking it. It really, the right angle works from the center. It's down below here someplace. So really the right angles are going to that center. But I'm being lazy for right now because I don't want to have to kind of analyze too much going on at the same time. To keep things kind of at the right level, we'll now work things that are going out that way with slight inclines, just to make sure we're going in the right direction, okay? Now, so we have, keep your architecture consistent. So there are rules, okay? We'll start with type. If you're doing a composition, okay, you don't have to follow any rules. Nobody told you to follow any rules, really. It's just that, okay, you know what a typeface is, right? So let's say you have serif typeface, that's serif, well, I don't want to get off into that. We'll spend another video about all that. You either know about this stuff already or you don't. But anyway, let's say you have two different styles of typeface. You don't want to put more than two styles into composition unless you want to be, kind of distract your audience, right? So here, this is what this is. You can always grab one of these and go like that, create a measure. This is my coffee. I'm going to spill my coffee. Okay, we create a measure. And now we fooled ourselves. The wall really needs to go about here. And your eye will pick up on it. Now we know, right? We know the wall has to be like that, right? So use a measure tool. So where I'm going with this thing about two typefaces, right? The same with like two distinctly different styles. For instance, if this architect is running around here doing this, that's like a typeface. Keep everything fairly consistent to that. Maybe add another one if you want to. But we like to think that we're complex creatures, but really what we are is like most people get confused. They think they can count to 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about at 2 that people start to get cognitive dissonance. You go, oh my God, there's more than 2 things going on. Okay, that's just how it is. It's how we break things down into, I suppose, up and down, close and far, whatever. We have about 2 to 4 combinations of things going on in our instant analysis capacity. And so what we find pleasing, okay, often, at least in the design composition, works into fourth contrast. And that's especially true in the land of graphic art, which is based on black and white. So I just made this kind of fit into this. I would like to think that's somewhat pleasing. And I'm doing this little trick here for curves, because I want to keep track of curves. Where are the curves? Okay. People have trouble with some of these issues too. I want to have this look kind of uniform as these lines go over the edge. A quick way of doing that is starting about the center, right? and split that in half, split that in half, split that. Okay. Now these lines are more or less uniform. So when I come through here and I want to do these other lines, right, make this look like falling water, just make sure that I put, okay, that's a tangent. We're talking about tangents. That's an awkward tangent. And we just discovered that awkward tangent. So what we're going to do is that creates kind of a rule for the lines. Okay, we have to do a line that kind of goes like that, another line kind of goes like that, so that corner doesn't get connected to a tangent, one of these lines in the background. So we get a decision here as to whether we're going to have two lines or one line. I'm going to make a decision. It's going to be two lines. That means basically I will later have to sort that out. And then as we move through here, we kind of do that, a little bit of that, and then this is rough. So we have things we will screw up yet again with their drawing being figured out. And the drawing I do over this one will probably be more spontaneous. But the reason I'm doing it this way for now is because it's good to have a foundation that kind of puts you in the right place. Okay. Now the other thing we have to realize is where is under this wall. Let's assume that this right here, running to about right here, is where the line is here, or where this is, right? We draw that, okay? And you can even draw a little line like that really quick there, because that helps. Okay, we know that that's the edge over which this is spilling, so that curvature comes about that high to about here, right? In fact, that's how thick, you say, that's how thick the water is. This will become useful later. The shadow isn't that great, but that helps with that. Okay, we've now screwed ourselves up around. Okay, this is the height of the wall for where the water is, right? A quick, easy trick for water is just to draw a little shadow with some lines like that, add some ripples, right? Now we know this water is interesting. That's not going to be still water there, but at least that helps. Pulling this together, kind of do the same thing here. Maybe a little bit of that. Okay, so what I've done now, and then I'm going to draw this line coming down here. Okay, we now have a decent composition. So, rough perspective. If this wall would come around like this, it would end up being about this size over here, right? And that intuitively works out about right. So what we do is, to make things simple for ourselves, we take a little random control we have. We put it over here, we put it over here, here, maybe, and then we just draw the line like so, okay? Now, we have kind of a pretty good indication of what we were chasing after. That doesn't look bad. It looks like, okay, great. That looks better than it did. Now, our characters here, there are some characters here. We're saying we're going to keep it like this. It fits in with the composition here. Sometimes, because of the composition, you just draw a bubble, right? It's a certain size, and then you come up with enough text to fill it up, right? I want the bubble to be this big. So this character, no matter what, they're going to say something that fills up that bubble. And the other part is, for a sense of humor, if you can call it a sense of humor, is after this guy gets done saying, oh, this stuff, simple, here. And because these are QR code coloring pages, this might be a QR code writing this little bubble. And you know how find wall numbers is. Well, you have find the QR code, right? And what that does is add another dimension to the story. That goes to a Wikipedia article about, I don't know, something useful with the dark time. Okay, so remember, we're still in true up mode for things like characters. They become a little bit funky. This guy is not right. We're going to have to move him around. And I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. So what you do is, oh no, I'm not going to show you that. I'll show that next week. So you draw the things right, even if they're in the wrong position, right? We want this guy to have his arms kind of holding the size of the star. Now again, stylizing characters, we want them to be easy to understand. Okay, so hands, arms, right? That's easy to understand. We won't move him around too much. Basically move back and far. I wasn't going to move him around. There's no real need to. But the car is still relatively clumsy. We're going to have several designs of this car. And I have this whole story idea about cars on Mars. I have a character called Cars from Mars, which is Cars on Mars. And he sells used cars on Mars as well. What the super rich do some days. This is not good. They basically take your cars to Mars and take all your valuable stuff to Mars. You have to be crazy to put Mars first. Right? Really. It means you're basically quite fine with trashing the planet, where you have no real optimism whatsoever of how you're going to do anything. It's a human problem. You're just going to, somehow you're going to. How did Elon said the light of human consciousness? Now, I don't know how Elon got to believing that he understands the light of human consciousness, but he certainly is doing a whole bunch of really weird experiments with, he's really messing with the light of human consciousness. And then he's going to ship to Mars. That's what he's doing. Okay, now, so here, the reason why we did that was because, lo and behold, we have a whole bunch of awkward tangents, and we're supposed to create the illusion between here and here of the other side of the planet being seen. And we don't want the line to run into this. So we're going to solve the problem this way. We're going to create what amounts to, we have this over here, and this is our cruise ship. going over the edge, right? Again, something that's going to have to be true up. We're going to have to true up our crucian. It is a spaceship which has the ability to land on water. And if you pay attention to the last video, there's a story about the water on these planetoids. So spaceships, they do a lot with water on the planetoids. Okay. This poor guy is on the waves of the ocean, about to plummet over the side of a cliff, to fall into the depths of the abyss of the planetoid. Now, so we have these two characters saying something, and we have this situation, which is over here, the characters are speaking to each other here. And what is the best place to put something and remain unconfusing? It's probably about here. Okay? And if this is going to here, this is going to about here, and there we are, we have an awkward tangent. So how do we handle the awkward tangent? Well, we have another tangent. We want this to kind of go like that, right? So it's running into that tangent. So we have a problem, which is kind of fun. It solves itself by drawing we draw a jagged line. And what we've just done is we created a character. Oddly enough, it speaks in jagged lines. See, these things are fun to do because they write themselves. Okay. So by solving that problem of the tower, we created this, which is interesting. Solving these tangents created something that's a jagged line, which is a different kind of character that might complement this. And what the hey, since the QR codes are, well, they're characters that are writing themselves. We'll get back to that another time. I have a whole bunch of QR code characters. Anyway, so what happens? We just created this. Thought maybe I don't know, but that jagged line thing here is kind of interesting, and it takes care of this awkward tangent. And now the planetoid goes off into the distance, like right about here, and that looks kind of cool. Okay, neato. So the lines in this area need to be interesting, right? The way it would work is this would start pulling, depending on the size of the planet. So the vortex would probably be behind this. So it's finding its way around here. So everything in this area is moving kind of like that. In fact, we kind of go over the edge of the horizon. So there is none of this. In fact, it has to come around here, right? And then it'd be backwaters, something kind of maybe like that. And then this area here would probably be kind of something kind of happening here, right? And so to make this really not, you have part of that run into that. This. All right, now we have an odd space, which is now this area here. So we're going to have that kind of follow the edge of that now, and then have various planetoids going off into the distance, right? These will all get fixed later. And so now think of this line going across like this. If you're going to have somebody here saying something, it would look good fitting in right about here. If you're going to have somebody else saying something, it would fit in right about there. Okay, that makes sense. And only now we solved that problem. And these are people talking in the tower. So let's say they're talking to two levels of the tower. They're talking to people who are here. We're talking to this. We're talking to this. We're talking to this. And then we have an area. We took care of that space. Then we do this. Okay. And what we've done now, okay, remember that the water being pulled, it really is being pulled from over here as well. And we still have this kind of awkward tangent. But the reason I drew this, remember I was doing this, is because we draw from here. We don't want this down. We want to be able to see kind of this thing here. And this is the natural line right about here. So we will do that line there. And then we need to make it interesting in terms of how it goes here. So I come up with this. This is just not, I'm not happy with this. This is a problem that has yet to be solved. We have indications of lines that sort of go like that. We don't have room for something that looks great going here. It needs to somehow resolve itself in this area here. So we're going to the vocabulary of French curves. But that's cool. I guess off in the distance, that would be something that would be miles and miles of something. Okay, so but now we have a shape. Weird. That shape right there may be a real problem. Solving that is going to be an interesting thing. Okay, now we have the curve of the planetoid way back there in the distance. We're going to follow sort of the same rule again. And have that, we're figuring out how the lines are going to go. Now in other worlds, instead of sitting in one place trying to solve everything from this angle, I would move the drawing around and go walk around the table. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just drawing everything kind of from the same point of view, which is here. It's kind of making things a little bit different. We'll stand up and just do this. Okay, so we have lines going this way to this, and we have, so if you're drawing large things, use your arm as kind of pivot from the elbow, and you'll find that you just draw curved lines, other things fairly quickly. So we work our way through this, using the arm as a pivot. Okay, a lot easier than trying to use the wrist. Okay, now, it still looks awkward. This is where little details make things look better. Um, this is what happens when you make things up as you go along, which I don't necessarily mind doing. This is kind of fun. But now that we've got all the elements, and even more mature composition can happen because we now know what's. Where we made a lot of progress for just a few hours. So this, we don't really know what's going to happen with this. It's still kind of a mystery. We need something to make that awkward. It just looks like some weird shape right now. Okay, at least to me. Okay, so, but we do know that it's bad for doing something. Okay, and hold this. Now we have these other lines going in this direction, and we don't know if we're really going to use them, but they're useful for indicating that this is curved space, kind of back there doing something. So we can have those to consider. Now, in this area, which I consider a little bit awkward, just add this like kind of like swirl stuff. And the swirl stuff that's the line that little details like stars or planetoids or whatever can follow, right? And kind of make it look kind of interesting. Likewise, this area here will probably need some lines or something too. Kind of just a few of them, just to make it look cool. Here again, something kind of needs to happen. And don't underestimate the power of just black, right? So we have a decision to make, which is for later, which is, are we seeing the atmosphere on the side, or are we seeing a starry sky, right? Hard to tell, right? And then we have the planetoid, which probably still looks like it's falling over the waterfall, but we don't want it to look like it's falling. It would be nice to have kind of a planetoid that you're seeing through the clouds right about here, if possible. Okay, now, one little detail real quick. What these are good for, these little straps, is you kind of conserve, okay, let's do that really fast. You kind of conserve your space. You go around and you add the details that you want. You know, you rough these guys out, right? You can make little sound effects too. In fact, later, I forgot about the sound effects. When I was in the third grade, I guess I was third grade, I got in trouble. They wrote a note to my parents because I would sit and draw stuff. And I'd be sitting there and I'd be doing, I would sing little songs. I could do that, actually, I could do that in these videos. I would do that. Oh, that part. Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, we're having little characters talking to each other. Okay, so now, this is evolving, right? So we know this line, right? Okay, we know that. Aha! So, cute trick. We keep this in place. Let me cut this. This is what. Do I really want to do this? I guess I do. Cute trick. Okay. Cut away the paper. So then what we do is we take this. Where's my tape? Let's take all these. Is it on another table? Is it even here? Yes. Okay. Okay. Hey. Okay. Okay. Tape. What you do really fast with the tape is, you get this where you want it, you tape it in one position. That's good enough. You got a steady hand. You don't want to put tape all over the place. Now what you do is you fold this piece of tracing paper like so, and now you have this. And you just true up these lines, right? And what we just did was we just created a little city to give this some scale on top of, what would this be? Gatehouse 2. This is Gatehouse 2. So at Gatehouse 2, there's a little city on top. So here's our people, okay? So now what we're doing now is we're going, God, this is some kind of, well, this is what the fabricators did. The fabricators did this in the second or third information age. The fabricators created the incredible architecture of the solar system. What's it called? The solar system, I don't know what, we'll come up with something. Right? So that's kind of cute, right? And what happens with that is, it's waiting for us, okay? So now with another piece of tape, if you want to, another trick to do is to put a registration mark here and here, right? And then it's waiting for you here and here, okay? And you can label these, right? Label them. We'll call that something important, right? And very carefully pull that out. Now, if you don't, rip your drawings apart, fold the tape over, we're all done, okay? That little guy right there, all we have to do is line it up with the registration marks. And for the next layer, we put those all over the place for whatever we want to fix. And we're ready for kind of doing the next drawing, which will be a little even cleaner than this. And probably will be the final drawing. Okay, now, that is probably enough. We'll call that enough.